Monday is the final call for Russian airlines to hand back hundreds of commercial aircraft to their foreign owners. EU sanctions mean that leasing companies have had to cancel their contracts to supply Russian carriers with planes. Now, leased planes make up the majority of the Western-built commercial jets used by Russian airlines. There are more than 500 of them, with a combined total of some $10 billion. Now, while these planes have been unable to fly outside of Russia because of sanctions banning them from European airspace, many are still flying domestic routes, and lessors are losing hope of actually getting them back. Russia's transportation minister says the Kremlin will compensate owners for their aircraft, but there have reportedly been no negotiations so far because any agreement would breach sanctions. Well, let's get to the bottom of this story by speaking to aviation journalist Andreas Speth. Thanks for joining us on DW Business. What chance have these lessors got of actually getting these planes back?
They're actually quite slim at the moment, as it seems. And interestingly, one has to know that just physically reclaiming the aircraft themselves doesn't really solve the whole problem, because if they stay on in Russia for some time now and maybe hand it over in some period of time from now, they might be worthless. And the reason is that aircraft maintenance records are absolutely decisive for any aircraft. And if the lessors don't know what has been done to the aircraft while they were stuck in Russia, they are really worthless for the lessors after taking them back without documentation. That's a very major point to observe here.
And one of the things that the Russian government's done to try and get around this is to recertify the jets or re-register them in Russia. Is that something they can do? Is that legal?
Yes, it is, because Bermuda, where for tax reasons most of the Western Russian aircraft fleet had been registered so far, actually dropped them from their register as part of the sanctions. So there was actually a need to re-register them. But still, experts call this the biggest theft in history, because some of them even estimate the worth of the 523 aircraft that we are talking about at the moment up to $12 billion US. And so the lessors are actually unable to retrieve them, for example, for probably very anytime soon. So it might be really considered a theft. And while registering or re-registering is kind of a legal thing, the problem is also the sanctions don't allow any maintenance, like Western spare parts can't be taken to Russia.
Yeah, so essentially these planes are going to become unusable, aren't they, if they can't be maintained? So it would appear that Russia is heading for a shortage of aeroplanes. How do they get around that?
I mean, of course, they can fly them for some times on domestic route. It's a huge country with a big domestic market. It was even doing fairly well before COVID. Before COVID already, within the pandemic, and even before the war started, the Russian domestic market worked quite well. So they could use these aircraft for some time. They could also cannibalize some of the aircraft stuck in Russia to maintain others with the parts, but that would be a violation of international aviation regulations. Also, people really say this is a fundamental breach, this whole thing, of the 1944 Chicago Convention, which really is underlying all kinds of aviation since 1944. So it's really uncharted territory here.
It really is, isn't it? Well, Andreas Speth, thanks for trying to guide us through that territory.
Thank you.